Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have the authors of this book, The Trust Frequency, Andrew Cameron Bailey and Connie Baxter Marlow. They've actually written a few different books, but we're going to focus on this one today because this is about the nature of consciousness, which is in effect a way of saying the nature of reality. And you could call it kind of the core basis of all the work they're doing. And we're going to be focusing on two main aspects of their work today. First, consciousness, as of this book, and then also climate change and dealing with the climate, with ecology, with the environment, because it is so pressing and we all feel it so much in our bones calling for attention. So we're going to put together consciousness and the subject of climate together where they belong, and through which I think some real magic is going to happen for us on this beautiful, beautiful planet. So welcome both of you. Such a pleasure to have you both on A Better World.
It's an honor to be here.
It's a big treat.
So glad, yes. We've known each other for so many years, and somehow we just haven't had a chance to get together just yet until today.
We finally did
So,
it. We
finally.
ran into each other in New York City on Friday
That's right.
at Unity Earth.
Unity, Earth, Uplift. Exactly. That's right. And liftoff, right?
Yeah, and the convergence. We're bringing all the players together, global players together to unite humanity.
Exactly.
It's very exciting to be associated with Unity Earth.
Absolutely. I've been part of that planning now for months at this point with many others, Kurt Johnson, Ben Bowler, and there's a whole wonderful
We've known
group.
Kurt for about 4 or 5 years now. So it's the most encouraging thing I've found in a long time.
Yeah.
And we're
What's
actually
going
partnering
on?
with them on our first 50 years project, which we're not going to talk about much today, but it has to do with the syntheses that occurred between the European colonists and the American Indian that gave birth to the American mind, spirit, and democracy. So that's a whole big subject, but that's what we're partnering with Unity Earth on for
Wonderful.
the unification of humanity.
And we will do a show that is dedicated to that because, after all, your ancestors, Connie, were among the original pilgrims.
The Mayflower.
The Mayflower.
And 2020 is, in fact, the 400th anniversary of the landing of the Mayflower. And Unity Earth has their whole road to 2020, their global road to 2020. So it's a very good fit.
Ending back in New York City.
Yeah.
That was bought for a couple of beads. So
$24 worth of something, right?
Yeah.
Or guilders or something.
Yes, right.
Back in the day.
Right.
But what
Can't
happened
eat
in
them,
Plymouth was 54
but-
years of peace and friendship and a synthesis between the colonists, the pilgrims, and the Indians. What we're saying gave birth to the American mind and spirit and democracy. So it's a very important perspective of synthesis rather than...
And maybe even some new data that
Yeah.
most people don't know about. So,
Yeah.
but
so-
you two are always uncovering that kind of thing. So it's perfect.
So it's a major 2020 is a major opportunity to kind of hit the reset button, and it's an election year among many other factors. It's the 400th anniversary of the landing of the Mayflower. It's a real opportunity to sort of do a little self-examination individually and as a nation, as a country,
Yes.
as to what we stand for and what our founding principles were, and to what degree are we following those now.
Well, this is going to be a foretaste of an upcoming show that is dedicated to the subject. As you can see, there's a little bit of excitement about it, which is great. I'd like to turn our attention toward this seminal work that you have done. And I say that because the subject itself of dealing with frequency and dealing with consciousness is sort of the underlying matter at hand. As I told you recently when I interviewed Paul Hawken, who I've been such a fan of for so many years, decades really, and Catherine Wilkinson, his co-author of the last book, Drawdown, which is essentially a roadmap, what he calls the most comprehensive plan to reverse global warming ever devised or proposed. I suggested that the first of the solutions is the changing of the human mind, which essentially is consciousness. So whether they ever incorporate that or not as such is their story. But for us, while we absolutely appreciate and honor the amazing work that those several hundred scientists did to compile that list of solutions and the carbon footprint, et cetera, what you're doing here is, I think, sort of a preamble to any real long-lasting, sustainable answers and solutions to our current dilemma.
It is literally foundational.
Foundational, exactly.
As we move forward into the future, as we resolve this climate crisis, as we awaken as an evolving species, as Barbara Marx Hubbard would say, we're on an evolutionary path. And so this book is aimed at that. What is it that's holding us back? And what is it we need to do to move forward in a positive manner so we can not only survive, but we can thrive, that we can actually evolve as humans.
As a species.
And this book sets out to be helpful in that regard.
So Connie, you mentioned earlier about core assumptions we make about our understanding of the operation of the universe. And I would say that we would tend toward looking at physics when we want to. First we look at Newtonian, and we look then at Einsteinian, and then we look at quantum as a way of understanding the nature of reality, really. But what do you want to bring to that through this book? What are the other core assumptions you say we're making that are either aligned or not?
Well, our book is called 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. And what we're bringing is indigenous cosmology together with quantum science. I spent decades with visionary native elders, and I had asked the question, what are the missing pieces of the paradigm that have us out of balance? And Native American elders started coming into my life, and through them I saw what I see as they're carrying clues to the true nature of the universe, the heart, the spirit, the sacredness of all life, and our interconnectedness. And quantum science has since been proving this interconnectedness and this observer effect, that we actually affect reality with our attention. And we say
with our consciousess,
literally with our consciousness,
right.
And we actually have the 7 A's of consciousness that we call our requests to a conscious, loving, abundant universe. Within the indigenous knowing and indigenous way of life, there is not hoarding, there is not saving. You give it away, okay? Give away is the essence of abundance, is what I've come up with, and I've seen through them. Because if we, in the higher frequencies...
Which is the inverse of the way we live, by the way.
Right? We live in a scarcity-based paradigm.
Exactly.
The opposite, right?
So,
me,
right.
All that.
And if we live in a conscious, loving universe, it responds to our thinking, our consciousness. And we have the 7 A's of consciousness, the 7 words that begin with A, that actually are our requests to this conscious, loving universe.
Could you say what those are?
Yeah, I can actually say them in a sentence.
In a single sentence, how about that?
Okay. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, which is the kicker, the action piece, walking from that place, acting from that place.
Right.
Take committed action and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams. Because we can't fathom what's in that frequency. The laws are different. Okay, this is not the only ball game.
Sure.
There's a party going on. We're all invited.
You mean material interpretation of reality?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a party going on. We're all invited, and we have some tools on how to get there. Once we understand how loved we are by a conscious, loving universe. So.
I really like that way of putting it because I speak like that oftentimes when, in light of the idea of what we refer to as, talking about assumptions, death, And my way of seeing it as it is just an invitation to the next party, you know, and it's not what we call, it's a disintegration of our physical body, and the rest goes on.
Right, a letting
to
go of this.
A new invitation, as you're putting it. I like it.
Right. So note the subtitle of
Is
the
that
book.
moving in alignment with your
Yes, but except we don't
comments?
have to die to get there.
right? You mean
We
right?
can
You don't.
shift
You mean the physical
frequency.
body doesn't have to disintegrate to
To go
achieve
into this
that
higher
new
frequency.
attainment,
We
right.
can change it
We
tomorrow.
can actually live in what we call the trust frequency right
Yes.
here, right now. It's literally heaven on earth. We don't have to die to get there. In fact, we have to live to get there.
Yeah.
And the subtitle is 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. So what's holding us back from being there already? Our assumptions. What's an assumption? It's a belief that we take to be true without question.
Yeah.
What's a paradigm? Simply a set of assumptions that we've collectively agreed upon. It's our consensus reality. So if we can go into our fundamental assumptions or core beliefs and have a look at them, because we inherited most of them from our parents, our teachers, our antecedents. By the age of 3 or 5 or 7, these things were set in place, went inside, became unconscious, subconscious, and are very powerful as a result of that. Here I am, 60, 70 years old, whatever it is, still behaving on beliefs that were given to me. Perhaps my father, when I was 3, whacked me and told me I wasn't good enough, and I still believe that. So let's have a look at those core beliefs and fundamental assumptions. This work has relevance in transpersonal psychology, for
Definitely.
example. It has
I hear
relevance
that.
in virtually every aspect.
Every form of psychology.
Of psychotherapy,
Yeah.
of self-help, whatever it is. It's foundational.
Personal development.
How many people do we know, Mitch, in this town of Manhattan, who've gone back and forth to India over and over again and have studied with gurus and done their mantras and done their work with their gurus
Malas.
and their malas and on and on and on, and yet are still unfulfilled, still full of fear, still believing in such things as scarcity and separation? Why? Because you can't layer these new higher realities over the pre-existing ones.
Exactly.
We've actually got to get in there and do some rooting out.
Well, this, of course, is the core basis of psychotherapy, which is the work I've been doing for decades. And it's the same fundamental idea. I just interviewed, for probably the 15th time, cellular biologist Bruce Lipton,
Oh,
my
Bruce Lipton.
dear friend who I
Yeah.
love and adore. And he was saying just what we're saying again, because we keep repeating the same idea because it's not getting through. It's not getting through because, so how many times do we know and have we observed that people grow up physically but are not growing up emotionally and spiritually? Or they grow up what they call spiritually, like going to India and sitting with the feet of the guru and this, but emotionally they're still operating out of their fear and flight reptilian brain function, not their cerebral cortex or the prefrontal lobes, or for that matter, their heart. And so they're, for all intents and purposes, still like children, functionally children in a grown-up body.
Well, what we say is that there's a split in the human psyche, that we have our true nature. There is the true nature of the universe. We have belief systems, the scientific paradigm that you referred to, that separate us from that and have caused this split in the psyche, because our heart
Yes.
is there, our spirit is there.
Yeah.
That knowing
They
is
didn't
deep
disappear.
inside, but
They don't
it's
disappear.
an overlay
On
of
top
a
of.
belief system, a paradigm that's
Exactly.
not in alignment with universal law. And
It's a
our
beautiful
true
way of
nature and the
framing
true
it.
nature of the universe.
Yeah.
So what we're saying with our book and this construct on the nature of the universe, that's what we're presenting as a construct, how the universe works. And if you take that construct as absolutely true, we're not saying it is, but you take it as absolutely true. There is only love. Okay? God is love. God is everything. There is only love. There are no buts. We actually resolve that paradox because we say it loves us unconditionally. Unconditional love is it gives us everything we ask for. What are our requests? Our consciousness, the 7 A's of consciousness. So if we understand that we're being responded to from our core beliefs, our assumptions, those 7 A's, and our overarching act of free will when we incarnated. See, what we're saying is we incarnated to go on a journey to wholeness, to go on a journey to alignment with our divinity. All those little pieces that we don't yet love, we've come here to learn to love. And everything that's showing up in our life is showing up for us, not to us, to show us those parts of ourselves we don't love. It's a mirror for our subconscious to show us the things we can't see. So everyone that abuses us, or whatever we see as not love, we gave permission for in our overarching act of free will. Okay? So it's a complex, big deal to move out of duality, out of right and wrong, good and evil. That's what we're doing with this book. Because until we get there, we're stuck in a lower frequency. We're in judgment, we're in evil, we're in good and bad, all that. Rumi said there's a field out there beyond right doing and wrongdoing. I'll meet you there. Okay, till we get there, we're in a lower frequency. Yeah. There will not be peace on earth. There will not be heaven on earth. All those things that everyone so desires, we cannot get there from here. I'm from Maine.
She's from Maine.
Okay, and Bert and I made a very profound statement.
Yep.
You can't get there from here. So that's our stuff in an end.
That's beautiful. Could you go into greater depth, both of you, about the name, the trust frequency? So you're talking about another construct, which also is in whole compliance with quantum theory of the world being a series of frequencies, of vibratory rates. And that is how the universe is itself constructed. When you say the trust frequency, could you just explain?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. All right, so science would agree.
Sit down, young man. I'm going to tell you.
All right. Science would absolutely agree that we are electromagnetic beings who exist in an electromagnetic universe. And we interact with each other and with everything in the universe. In fact, quantum science teaches us through quantum entanglement that we are completely intimately connected, no matter what the distance between us, no matter what the time and space don't really exist either. So we are completely, totally interconnected.
In other words, when two electrons meet, they are linked forever, no matter where they may be, end up in the universe.
Yep, that's what happened to us.
Right?
Linked. And so...
Two beautiful electrodes.
Thank you. If we exist, let me not say if, I'm just saying, because we exist in an electromagnetic vibrational universe and are electromagnetic vibrational beings with sufficient consciousness to actually adjust our vibrational frequency. So I have the personal choice to vibrate at whatever frequency I choose. I can choose to be totally miserable. I can get my vibes way down there, and I can be sitting in the traffic totally annoyed, or I can be in a state of ecstatic union, and it's my choice, and it's everybody's choice.
Yes.
Every sentient being.
Moment to moment.
We have this choice. Now, why do we find ourselves in these lower vibratory states? Because of our beliefs. If I believe, for example, the first assumption is we live in a conscious, loving universe. I'm a science guy. That's not what they taught me in physics back in high school and college. They taught me basically that the universe is a giant clockwork machine.
Mechanical.
Machine. It doesn't even know I exist. How different is that from what the native peoples of the world have known forever, that we are in the womb of the mother, and who we simply can call the conscious, loving universe, this matrix, this mother of whom we are an inseparable part. Would you like to say something?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and as far as the
Totally
trust frequency,
aligned, one of the 7 A's.
yeah, aligned.
Mm-hmm.
As
And
far as-
activated.
Yeah, and activated. There's another A.
Mm-hmm.
And acceptance. There's lots of
Yeah,
A's,
there are
but
lots
we
of
settled
A's.
on these 7 A's. But as far as the trust frequency,
Mm-hmm.
I see it. I know it. Jesus showed it to us with the miracles that he did. In a higher frequency, those aren't miracles. That's the true nature of the universe. Okay, the loaves and the fishes, the abundance beyond our ability to fathom.
Sure.
How many bushel baskets did he have left over? You know, and so the song "Imagine," John Lennon showed us that we have clues everywhere in our great writings, in our
Jesus
great
and John.
Jesus and John.
J&J.
And this country was based on a providence-based paradigm.
Yes.
Okay, if you read the founding fathers of this country, every other word is we turn it over to providence, and providence this and providence that. Okay, if we look at the providential history, we come up with a
Yes.
whole different story. And for me, there's only the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. So my view of everything that goes on shows me in this trust frequency that everything is serving a higher purpose. Everything, even the things we see as not love, as not okay. There is a divine orchestration and purpose into this higher frequency. So the clues are there. It just depends on what questions you ask, what your perspective is,
Yes.
and your choice of how you choose to vibrate. And once you know the rules of the game, how the universe works, the mechanics of it, you flow into that, and your reality changes today, immediately.
I love
So the
it.
trust frequency is just kind of a scientific term for nirvana or samadhi or heaven on earth,
Yes.
or that high state that we just called, I'm picking up good vibrations. If we can
The Beach Boys were right.
Yep. So if
Yeah,
we
it's all
can,
there. It's
if
all
we can
clues.
consciously choose to elevate our vibratory state,
Yeah.
so we're living from up here instead of down there, the rules are different.
Surely.
It's actually a different universe when you perceive it and experience it from that level. And things unfold for you in completely different ways. You're not slamming into the walls. You're not stuck in the traffic. You're just flying through Manhattan rush hour in no time at all.
So I think I have the 3 P's.
Peace, prosperity, and paradise.
Those are beautiful. I love those. But I was playing, well, maybe we have 6 or 7 P's. You've got all those 7 A's, right? No, I was really coming off of what Connie was saying about perspective, because in a lot of the teaching I give, it's really about perspective. That's huge. Perspective, purview, posture, and position. And funny as it sounds, but it's just it's the P part of the A part. If you look at it, they're not separate. They're just other distinctions along the same path.
It's the
because
practical application.
it's a practical application, exactly.
When they're put into
So
effect, yeah.
if you're driving on the thruway through LA, and as you were saying before, Andrew, people would tend to, based on various core assumptions, be, this is no good, and I have to be there at this time, and everyone's angry, so I'll be angry, or, Liz, this is fun, I've got a car, I'm behind the wheel, what a ball, what a gift.
And guess
And
what?
it's
When
divine
you do
timing.
that,
It's all good.
and when you do that, the traffic suddenly goes, and it's released, and you get there exactly. You're supposed to be there at 5 p.m., and you look at your digital watch, it says 5:00, and you go, thank you.
Peace be on the earth. To pick up on something else you were also saying about miracles, I believe it was St. Augustine who said, miracles are not contrary to nature. They're the part of nature we know not yet of.
There you go.
Right?
Okay.
So, exactly. And Gurdjieff, who's another one of my teachers through his work with Ouspensky in Search of the Miraculous, says the same thing, that we're operating on different laws, and the more conscious we become, the higher the law that we are operating out of and from, and therefore whatever appears as a miracle to the people who know not yet of the laws that are really governing them, that's where they are. But those who are operating on the levels that you're speaking about, Andrew, of the higher frequency, they go, of course. And so another practical application of this or experience that we all have is that one that Jung referred to as synchronicity. So when you're in that space, that higher vibration, the world becomes this synchronous space of, but of course, I know this one, I know that one, and we met here, and we met there, and we're meeting again, and hi, everybody.
You know the word trust.
I do.
T-R-U-S-T. Do you know what they stand for?
Please.
It's an acronym. Truly rely upon Spirit's timing. Synchronicity.
Beautiful. Well, when I asked before about the trust frequency, you didn't unpack that yet until just now. So
It's the vibrational state of being in a state of trust.
So let's apply this to our climate situation, okay? Because this is where we're going, because I feel that Spirit is here to be in service to planet, to the material world, actually, which is a beautiful world. But Spirit, the higher levels, as we're speaking of, are here to be of service to the lower ones to upgrade the conversation. So how do you take what you know about the trust frequency and consciousness and apply it to our current situation?
All right. So firstly, I think we agree we have a crisis on our hands. I'm a grandfather. I have 4 little people who depend on me. They don't even know there's a climate crisis. That's who I'm working for, and everybody else's children and grandchildren to the 7th times 7 generations,
Of course.
down the generations. So if I'm vibrating in the trust frequency and I perceive a crisis, that totally radically changes my attitude and where I put my attention and all of those 7 A's with regard to that specific focus. So if I completely, totally trust that we will get through it, we will find the solution or a series of solutions such as Paul Hawkins' drawdown solutions that he offered. I was a chemical engineer. I was trained as a chemist. I grew up in South Africa, became a chemical engineer. And so this is a chemical engineering situation. Too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is a simple...
And methane and about,
right, but still,
92 other gases.
Right, but the one that gets most of the press is CO2. So when I was about 14, I encountered chemistry. And I learned that if you took CO2 and combined it with sodium hydroxide, for example, you get sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, not known to cause global warming. So what if you could take the CO2 from the atmosphere and somehow interacted with sodium hydroxide and get it out of the atmosphere properly?
You're going to have a lot of baking soda.
You could go into the baking soda business and become a baking soda billionaire. However, baking soda is a precursor to a lot of other carbon-based materials. You can turn it into green concrete. You can turn it into fuels. You can turn it into, my favorite one is you can turn it into carbon fiber composite materials for 3D printing. And you can build and we've got 1 trillion tons of carbon in the atmosphere. Think as a miner, don't think it's a problem. Yogananda said, there are no problems, only opportunities. So what's the opportunity? And what's
the divine entrepreneur.
What's the economic opportunity here for the investor? The investor's opportunity is to find something that's going to solve the climate crisis at the same time as making him a fortune, or her a fortune. This is totally doable. This is where I took my chemical engineering background and turned it, and I'm a designer, builder as well. So I've designed and am in the process of prototyping and building these buildings that essentially extract CO2 from the atmosphere and turn it into useful products for humans, starting with using photosynthesis to create plants. So it starts out as a greenhouse, and then it does all of these other potential downstream things with the carbon. Rule number 1, get it out of the atmosphere, keep it out. There are other companies doing similar things with carbon capture and carbon sequestration, but most of them are approaching it as a business, and they're going to turn those things into fuels and sell them as fuels, which will get burnt and put back in the atmosphere. That's not what we're going to do.
Right.
So I'm
No, I hear you.
really excited about
That's
this.
important.
It's a huge challenge. I'm looking for that first person who walks up to me and says, hell yeah, we have to do this. And I happen to be a billionaire, and here's the funding. That's all that's lacking right now. This thing's ready to go. So it's exciting.
Well, I'm going to say, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Heaven yeah.
I'm not yet a billionaire,
Well,
but I'm
will
behind
be.
you.
Hey, yeah. And in front of me and all around me.
That's right. Exactly.
The exciting
No, that's
thing-
beautiful, Andrew. That is, I'm so moved by that story. It's
Keeps me up at night.
yeah, right.
Designing. It's
Yeah,
it's
baking
exciting.
soda everywhere.
Everywhere.
Well,
It's snowing baking soda.
We can do that as well.
so one thing about the trust frequency construct on a macro level, a personal level, is to key into your divine purpose. That we each came here with a purpose and a gift on this journey to wholeness. Well, Andrew has keyed into his divine purpose. You know,
Yes.
as a youth, he was a chemical engineer. All this stuff, he's gone into consciousness. He's gone into this Mayflower America
Full
stuff.
circle, right?
But what's come for him is his true passion and his true destiny. So that's so exciting to see that come through, his
Yeah.
own trust in himself. See, because that's key, is coming into trusting and loving
yeah.
yourself enough
Oh,
to
yeah.
step out there and say, we can do this thing. And that's what he's doing with these inventions, and he's gotten so much support. And the other exciting thing about the climate and consciousness thing is
Yeah.
that what I've seen in the climate environmental field, that I feel it was at quite a low vibration, because it was all about what's wrong and how bad humanity is and all that. And that's a low frequency. And what's been happening over the years is that the love of the Mother Earth has been opening the heart to our higher spiritual nature. So they're coming together, they're spiraling up together, and it's the crisis of the climate crisis and the severity of it that is taking us to that place, and to our looking to the native people. You're the caretakers of the earth, finally acknowledging them as what their
Totally.
job is on this planet, as caretakers of the earth, and their interconnectedness with it all. So it's now synthesizing and coming together with climate and the indigenous and consciousness. So it's all moving in that direction, and each catalyzing and feeding on each other to bring us to that place where we choose to walk in alignment with our hearts, with all of creation, in balance, in this higher frequency. We have to choose it. We have to do it. We can't just think about it. We have to do it. And
Action.
I feel the whole
Yeah.
human experiment has been, can we choose to, through free will, to align with our divinity, align with this sacredness and oneness of all life. And that's where we're headed, and that's what this conversation is all about. So,
Totally.
So it's a very challenging
I
time
so
we live
appreciate
in.
that, Connie.
It's a very challenging time, and it's a very exciting time, and it's the most exciting time to be alive. And I'm so grateful to be alive right now, because this, we can actually get involved and do something amazing for the future. Who was ever able to say that before? This is new.
I am so moved to my core by what you are both sharing, and of course my alignment is there and has been for probably eons, frankly. But what I'm hearing also reminds me of something that Paul Hawkins said recently in an interview I did with him and some of his talks, which is that global warming isn't something that's happening to us. Maybe it's happening for us.
Absolutely.
Connie just said that
So
in
it
the
beco-
context of the trust frequency as
I
well.
know.
You change your attitude to circumstance. And when things happen
Exactly.
to you and it wasn't what you chose,
Then
if you can
you
be grateful,
Feel like a victim.
if you victimize
Or-
me and I can look at you and say, thank you, I guess I needed that,
Yeah.
or something,
Exactly.
respond in gratitude
Right.
because it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Oh, what's the lesson? Or what's the
Exactly.
opportunity?
Yeah, we say-
Changes everything.
It does.
It's perspective.
It's perspective.
and you have to go there absolutely.
You
Yes.
have to
Because you
really
can't
commit
say
to it.
but.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
all happening
Right, no
for me, but
qualifiers.
no qualifiers.
No
To
qualifiers.
get there.
All in.
All in.
There's another A for you.
There's another,
Right.
and
Exactly.
there's three more.
So
And, yeah,
we
please.
say that circumstance loves us more than we do. Okay?
Check this one.
Because circumstance is
Ooh,
divine. It loves us more than we do because we've been trained in this lower frequency ball game rules, regulations, and how to be successful, how to be loved, how to all this stuff. So I've got to do this and be this. So I'm speaking on a macro level, personal
Yes.
level.
Yes.
So we go this direction to show up in this paradigm, and when in fact it's against our gift and purpose that we came here to do and be. And circumstances taking us on that journey to wholeness, on that journey to bring that true gift, our essential self, and that gift to the party.
Right.
So that's
No, I get it. And the whole subject of circumstance is so interesting because what it literally means, of course, is standing around. Stance, you know, from the Latin,
To stand.
is position, and circum is what is around. Circumambulating, if you will. And so either we take a stand around the circumstance and we become the author, if you will, or we become the victim. And so, you know, someone else who was very articulate about this over the years and decades, I should say, is Werner Erhard. So one either feels subjected to and victim to circumstances and conditions, and of course all the great spiritual teachers from India, China, Japan, Korea, Cambodia, and everywhere else of saying the same thing, or you go beyond the circumstance, and the circumstance becomes the stepping stone, if you will. This is me saying it, actually. The stepping stone to your next place, and you use the circumstance to move forward rather than feeling sequestered and separated and isolated and victimized by that.
well, and what
Right.
we're
And so
saying.
that is the trust frequency. That is
Yeah.
That
actually
is the
operating
yeah.
from, the real question is how do we learn to operate from the trust frequency or simply from a place of trust
Yeah.
as opposed to a place of fear? That's the fundamental difference.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Fear or love, right? Connie?
Or fear or trust even.
Yeah.
Trust
Or
is,
trust,
trust
yeah.
is interesting because people are very confused about love. People think it's holding hands
You know,
and having babies. And
Nah,
We're
whereas
saying it's
trust,
all there is.
nobody's confused about
Yes, right.
trust. It
Right,
doesn't have-
exactly.
Doesn't have the same baggage.
Well, but
no,
people
it's true.
don't
It's a very good
understand-
point.
they don't
It's a very
understand-
important point, actually. Very important.
Well, but also people don't understand to trust the loving universe. You know, you can't say,
right.
I trust you to be kind to me forever. I trust you to be real. And if you're showing me my shadow, I trust that and I look at my shadow.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a whole different twist on trust.
Yes.
So we're bringing a whole different
Yes.
twist on
That's right.
just about everything.
That's a very
with this
important,
construct.
very valuable point. Exactly.
And that circumstance is divine. It is the divine guiding us, loving us, even though it doesn't feel good.
That way.
Sometimes it feels wonderful.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and sometimes it feels amazing,
wonderful.
but sometimes it's like, oh, I thought I was going here, and it looks like I'm not.
I'm going
Darn
there
it, I'm a
instead.
failure in
Yeah,
Daddy's eyes.
right.
When in fact,
So-
it's sending us towards us being a poet, being an artist, instead of a doctor or a businessman that
Exactly.
Daddy would have approved of.
Right. Exactly.
So,
Two things are occurring to me. One is this interface of, what did I want to say? Of climate and consciousness. So I'm just going to give another example of how intimately connected they are. You've got the horizontal and the vertical. So say we implement this brilliant breakthrough of understanding chemically that you've come up with, Andrew. And let's say we have means to implement the drawdown 100 or so solutions that Paul Hawken and Catherine Wilkinson have come up with, edited, you know, from that brilliant body of work. What's to keep it all from happening again?
Keep what from happening again?
A repeat of the greenhouse gas proliferation. it's consciousness.
It's awakening.
It's awakening.
Once we wake up, we go back to sleep, it could happen again.
That's my point. Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So you've got the horizontal solution in some way, and you've got the verticality of the consciousness.
Right.
It's just another way of framing the conversation so that you need this in order to keep that from happening. Like we learned, we messed up. It's foundational.
Right.
And that allows us to have an ever increasingly creative type of conversation.
Because we didn't know that the Industrial Revolution would have this effect. It seemed wonderful. And all of a sudden we had motor cars and airplanes and all this amazing stuff.
That's right.
But we've known for 60 or 70 years now that the downside was coming up on
That's
us,
right.
you know, and we have not acted in the timely manner we could have. So that's the big lesson, is when something needs to be done, deferring it for whatever reason, for economic reasons or whatever it was, we need to have the courage to stop and turn around and change as a species.
Absolutely.
And we just have to put the word out there to those with basically the economic and financial power, who are the ones who've kept it stuck where it is right now, to realize, for example, the fossil fuel industry. Your days are over, people. You're done. It was great. You became mega billionaires, and now you have the money and the resources to take the next step.
Exactly.
And drop that one, because we can see very clearly that that one is over. And hanging on grimly for bottom line reasons is not appropriate, and you will go down in history not as a hero, but as a villain.
Exactly.
And the heroes of today are those who step forward. And any one of those people out there right now, if you're listening, could mean you. Yeah. To step up, your name will go down in history as a hero in the annals of humanity. So.
Hallelujah. I totally agree. So this is the whole domain of social entrepreneurship, social business, social conscious business, and conscious capitalism. It's the idea that there are multiple bottom lines, and the narrow vision of money being the only payoff is at this point completely barbaric.
Yeah, it's barbaric.
Archaic.
It's primitive.
Arcane.
Yeah.
Silly. And doesn't work. And when we get the joy of everything that you're saying about the nature of reality being cyclical and circular, that when we, someone makes $5 billion and they say, my God, reality, who can spend this?
You can't spend
I
that
can
in a
leave
lifetime.
so much to my family, to my loved ones, and at the same time, give the rest to my other loved ones. It's all one big family anyway. Who's kidding who?
Exactly.
So, just to reiterate your points.
Nobody is immune from the damage that is approaching at an extraordinary rate, including the children of the wealthy.
Exactly.
And so if we care about the next generations, if we care about our own children, our own grandchildren, there's something to be done. We can do it. We can do it.
I agree.
We should have done it 30, 40 years ago. We didn't. And the only time we have to do it is right now.
The real the beginning of the understanding or the recognition of the effect of CO2 excess, I mean to say, in our atmosphere actually goes back to, I think, the 1850s. It was really understood during the Industrial Revolution.
Evolution.
It was, and I agree. It was a fantastic thing, and until we recognized. But there were people recognizing it then too. For the record, it needs to be said, And then we have Rachel Carson, and we have Simon Spring, and we have lots of indicators along the path. Even the founder of the Sierra Club back in the 1920s. So it's turning a deaf ear, That's why, Connie, I'm so appreciative of all that you've been saying about kind of going back to the wisdom that has also been around us all along of the native people who have been saying, watch out, younger brother, white man, you are making some serious blunders. Remember the heart of Mother Earth. She is your mother. And,
That's it.
I love the way you wholly bring in the wisdom from which we all come, whether it's like directly or indirectly. Everyone is indigenous. to their own
Ultimately.
land, right? Ultimately.
They're showing us our true nature and the true nature of the universe, the pathway to the heart, I believe, the native
Yes.
people. That's been their job on the planet, to keep that connection. They've been in process as well. We all, the whole human race.
Of course.
One thing.
We're all evolving.
Yeah, and what I say is that the Earth was sitting in a field of fear frequency.
Yeah.
So everyone responded to that. The native people
True
as
enough.
well. Every race, every color. We've all been in process, and as the Earth is moving into a higher frequency,
Herself.
we can move herself.
I'm glad you
We
bring
can
this
move
up.
into
Yeah.
that frequency. The laws start shifting in the higher
Yeah.
frequencies, and we become aware of that, and we can trust it, and we can walk into trust. And you know, the Murphy's law of the toast landing butter side down. Now it's starting to land butter side up. And we're like, oh my God, look, it landed butter side up. Maybe I can trust that. Okay? And as our systems collapse, we find out that synchronicity and this and that we are in fact cared for. Maybe not the way we thought. There's not money in the bank, but guess what? We're cared for. And it's even more fun, ultimately, than the systems that we set up, which aren't fun. Our educational systems,
And they're
our
not
economic
working.
systems,
They're not working.
They're not working,
Yeah,
and they're not
crumbling.
fun.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
just find yourself in this never-ending
Ropes.
psycho rope, to success. What's that?
What's
A
success,
material
yeah.
power. and
People
control over
aren't
others.
happy.
Yeah. So.
Well, I find that, underlying all of this is when people live meaningful, purposeful lives. And so we keep saying in one way or another, when you think about your grandchildren, that you are waking up every day and they don't even know there's this thing called global warming.
Right.
And you are doing your life's work, Andrew, to help create a world where they might not ever have to know it, or they'll read about it in the history books. Or,
Yeah, right.
wow, Grandpa, look what you did. I think that's just fantastic. And that's another form of powerful spiritual nutrition that I think is just so vitally
It's trusting
important.
that we have this capacity. Because
Yeah.
right now, we actually have to summon up every ounce of trust we can in ourselves as a species.
Yes.
And then we have to deploy our collective genius. We're unbelievably ingenious as a species. What we're doing right now, we're talking about mining asteroids, and we're building an international space station, and we're able to,
Going to Mars,
get on the
find
iPhone and
water.
talk to
and-
my niece in Melbourne, Australia, in real time right now.
Exactly.
It's extraordinary. So we live.
It really is.
And if we can just pull all of that together, we fired up for World War II, for example.
I
with
know
that
where you're going
deployment.
with this, right?
And we fired up when Kennedy said we're going to get to the moon. And so these things are called moonshots.
Order.
Mhm.
Yes, now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
That's
Yeah.
right. No, you're on it
And it has
completely.
to do with people coming together,
Moonshots.
all their talents, all their skills, everything that we've been all working on as lone wolves and in independent ways, coming together and serving each other and connecting with each other, like you having us on this show, so that our voices get heard.
Yes.
And so it's each of us serving each other. And a Native American elder said, yes, we're going to fit the pieces of the hoop together and create the hoop of life. When I asked if there was a leader, she said, no, we're going to each put our pieces together. It's emergent, it's what's up, it's happening, and it's beyond the conscious mind. That's what keeps me going, is what you're calling synchronicity, is this divine
It's bigger than
orchestration
us.
that nobody could have
Bigger than
ever put
us.
together. It's
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
It seems like magic, but it's the natural way of things.
That's right. Exactly. And so just to come full circle, the Unity Earth movement, which includes us all, for which there is no leader. We are the leaders collectively, and we're not really the leaders. We're being led in many ways, right? So it's just fulfilling that same larger notion that
Right.
we're all part of this. We're all in this. Reverend Jesse Jackson put it this way. He said, we all may have taken different boats here, but we're all in the same boat now.
Mhm. And Buckminster Fuller said, we're all passengers on Spaceship Earth.
Spaceship Earth. I've been reading that manual for a long time.
That's right.
And the key is to suit up and show up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly true.
And if-
Well,
and
part of
Wake
that
up and
is
grow up.
this.
what is
The other name for Gaia, of course, in the Quechua language is Pachamama.
Pachamama.
And this is from the Achuar Indians in Ecuador,
Ecuador.
who the Pachamama Alliance started by Bill and Lynn Twist and Tracy Apple and a series of others, John Perkins,
Right.
began to specifically first protect those indigenous peoples, but now it's become a worldwide movement to protect the ideas of social justice, environmental justice, and spiritual
And
meaning.
Mother Earth.
And Mother Earth
Yeah.
and
And
underneath
guess
it all.
what? When you get in the higher frequencies, that word disappears.
Which one?
There's nothing to protect.
In a way, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because we're in balance.
Mhm.
The whole thing goes away.
Yeah.
Because we're
Even
in
sustainability
balance. And
becomes absurd because
Yeah.
it's an abundant universe.
It's an
Right.
abundant
But the
universe.
step we need to get to is sustainable because this is unsustainable.
Right.
And then we move beyond that.
You can deal with relative reality. It's okay.
Yeah.
But we know where we're going.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Well, listen, thank you both, Andrew and Connie, for being
What a
guests
treat
today.
it's been.
It's such a pleasure. I so appreciate both of your work for so
Much
long.
love.
And
It's so good
keep
to
it up.
reconnect.
It really
Thanks
is.
to Unity Earth.
Exactly.
Who'da thunk?
Exactly. Last time it was Ions in Chicago.
Ions in Chicago.
And we were there, and
And before that, I'm pretty sure it was Topanga Canyon.
that's what you think.
gotta put that
And
back
I don't
together.
know.
We
It
shall
could
see.
be.
I
It
know.
could
We're
be.
trying
But
to-
it's somewhere. We
Yeah.
know that for
Because
sure.
We already knew each other well in Chicago.
Yes, exactly.
So-
It was like old home week to see you two there. It was like,
Yeah,
oh,
so
good people I know. It's wonderful.
So
Well, thank you.
And the
To
summary
be
of
continued.
the whole trust frequency philosophy is in 4 words. Trust, the loving universe. That's a mantra that you can put into practice. You can wake up in the middle of the night and be anxious about something and just reset your trust and just get back to that. Just trusting the universe of which we are a part of, Pachamama.
That's
However
right.
you want to express it.
That's right. Well, thank you, both of you. And we will be having you on again to talk about the other subjects we discussed. Even though we brought together consciousness and climate change today, we still have much more to unpack there,
Yeah, we
not
do.
to mention to unpack after the Mayflower arrived.
Yeah.
There's that.
exactly.
Right.
There's that. And I really look forward to, because you're very well versed in the climate factor, and there's a lot that I can't wait to share with you.
Yes.
So we'll get
Beautiful. We
Okay.
will do so.
Thank
So
you.
thank you, Mitch.
You're so
thank
welcome.
you so much.
So welcome. Wow. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
was great.
overflowing.
I want to have her
This
take a
is,
picture of us.
wait 1 second.
He's
We're not
not.
finished yet.
I want to have her take a picture of us.
That happens from time to time. Thank you all for watching.
Okay.
So appreciate it. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Please visit us at our website, www.abetterworld.tv. And I love getting your thoughts and opinions and feelings at mjr@abetterworld.net, mjr@abetterworld.net. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.